Okay.
I'm Sylvia Richardson, and you're listening and watching us through Latin Ways YouTube. And we are live from the People's Social Forum. I am very privileged to be joined by Michelle Penny. She's a member of the Soto Nation of Yellow Quill, Saskatchewan. And very happy to have you with me today.
Thank you, very nice. It's nice being here.
Now, we just came back from an amazing powwow, and you delighted the participants with a beautiful song. And I thought perhaps we could start with that melody, with that song, because it opens our hearts to what we may share with others.
I didn't bring my instrument with me. I actually borrowed one for there. I was using a shaker, but the story comes from a woman in Kingston. She's a grandmother. Her name is Grandmother Barbara Hooper, and she's was out one day, and she was coming back from her very first powwow, and she went out to her porch to smudge her lungs, which means she was having a cigarette. And as she was out there smoking, she closed her eyes and she went away, and it's called a vision. And where she went to was into a field where full of wildflowers, and that's the name of the song, is the Wildflower Song. And she was singing with the wildflowers, and she was singing, hey, 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 hey. And when she opened her eyes, there before her was the rest of the community, all the women and children that were in the field, and they replied to her, hey, 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 hey. And while they were singing that song, she looks over across the field, and there's the men going away on a horse, on their horses, and they were going to meet a challenge. And one of the men turned around, and they, without interrupting, sent her a message to take care of these women and children, that she was going to be responsible. So he yells out, yeah, hey, hey, hey. And she replied so that he knew that she heard, yeah, hey, 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 hey. And that's the song that she was given.
It's amazing how music can completely open your heart to worlds of possibilities. And when I was listening to you singing, I was thinking about how a word, a sound, this ability to use vocables,
yes.
yeah, to just express a feeling that's deep in your heart, just expresses so much. So how does one find her way or his way when you've been wounded and your identity has been compromised by residential schools, by the different stereotypes that become the signature of how people identify you?
Well, I'm part of the 60s scoop actually, and I was adopted into a non-native family at 3.5 years of age, but I always knew I was not one of them. Skin color alone told me that I belonged elsewhere. So I went back when I was 24 years old to where I come from, Saskatchewan, and it was there I started my second education. I grew up in a white world and I got the white education, but it was the second education that was most valuable for me because that told me who it was that I am today. And it was learning about who it is that I am that was able to help me overcome, and of course more education. I have to emphasize education because that's how we're going to be able to move forward. Part of the education though is not just from the books that you learn in the universities and the schools and stuff. Part of the education is listening to your elders, it's listening to your stories, it's listening to what your past consists of. And once you get this knowledge, and once you're comfortable with this knowledge, you've got to be able to share it. I was telling many people, I said, I did not pay for my education on how to be an Indian or how to be who it is that I am. People gave me this information quite freely. And once I heard that information and once I processed it within myself, then I was able to share it with other people. And that is what education really is. It's sharing your knowledge. And that's what the elders are trying to tell us, trying to do for us, is they're sharing their knowledge. And I know a lot of people have many pieces of papers that says that they're specialized in particular subjects. They're called masters or doctorates or BAs, and that's all cool. But I've been an outreach worker out on the streets for Aboriginal organization here in the city. I've worked at the courthouse, working for another organization, Aboriginal organization, and there hasn't been a single book from the universities that actually gave me the solutions to the real problems that are out there.
I was thinking about the generosity in your voice, and the way that you express what an education could be, right? This ability to explore together, to share, and this idea that learning and growing from that knowledge is always social. It's a social process. So how do we invite others to seek out information, to seek out answers? Because we live in a society where education has become commercialized, commoditized, so those who can afford it cannot have access to it, and that's part of those people who say that's my knowledge and I must be paid in order to share it. So how do we transform that world of commerce into a language of sharing?
It's very easy. Use your voice. Use your voice, and don't be afraid to share what it is that you do know. It might not be important to everybody, but there's somebody in that audience that needs to hear those words at that time. And whatever I share, and I've shared at this university in various classes, and I've shared what it is that I know. It doesn't mean I'm specializing in anything, but the reality of life is something that everybody needs to know. And this is a very protected environment when you think about it. When you're being at the university, it's very protected, and you're focusing in on one subject. But when you get out into that world, when you're meeting all these different styles of people, you got to sit back, listen, hear what they're saying, and say, I understand, empathize, I understand what it is that you're going through, and this is what I've gone through also, so you've got to be able to explain that too. There's a lot of people out there that say, yes, I can so understand, but they might not be able to share their story. So that is very hard for the other person to say, yeah, I understand that you understand. And sharing the stories is what is most important. My story is different than the next person, so I did have a life, and I did some amazing things in my life. And those amazing things that I've done, I'm proud of. And those things that I've made mistakes of and I've learned from, I'm proud to announce those mistakes, because mistakes is how you're going to learn and move forward, right?
Absolutely. For young women who are watching you speak and sing, and who recognize that their voice perhaps had been silenced, by a multitude of things. We're told so many lies, in a society that is based on domination, where this idea of the survival of the fetus, which to me is completely inverted. It's those who adopt, those who can coexist, that survive. So how do we invite that wild woman to be revitalized, to come out, that free child to
find out who it is
again.
you are. Find out who it is you are, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. When I went to drum for the very first time, I didn't know any of the songs. I didn't know how to drum. I had 2 beautiful teachers to start off with, and then as the group grew bigger, I had 33 teachers, all in the same room. And we all learned, and we were learning to move forward, and that's what our purpose was. It was coming together as a community. It was sharing our stories. It was laughing and forming friendships. It was about having a common goal. And that's so important, is that common goal. So we all came together to be able to sing. There were 33 of us come Christmas time, and we started in September, and it started out with 4, and there was 33 of us by Christmas time. All the women and their kids, and we used to gather at 4 o'clock, start gathering at 4 o'clock. We'd share food together. And then the women would go off to drum, and the children would be taken care of, and they'd take care of each other. And I remember on more than one occasion, we'd stop our song, and the kids in the other room, they were singing along with the song, and they continued singing. And it was a wonderful thing, because even though we were all learning, our kids were learning with us. And I have 2 daughters, one 22 and one 19, and my oldest one, she now works for the people. She works at the Odawa Native Friendship Center, but she's picked up the drum for the first time and started singing this year with me, because I'm teaching drumming at Odawa in the evenings once a week. And my other daughter, well, she danced. She wanted to dance, so she got out there when she was 7 years old, and she has never turned back. So those things, you just can't be afraid to get out there and try. And you know, it's really interesting, because there's people saying, I'm too scared to get out there. Well, if you're too scared to get out there and try, arrive. Come sit down, come listen, come here. And when you're comfortable, you don't have to do it all in one day. It's when you're comfortable. So keep coming back, keep just enjoying, and one day you'll find the courage within yourself to be able to pick up that drum and sing, or you'll find your voice.
How does our connection to Mother Nature help us recover that voice? And how do we find not only the ways to see our interdependence, but also live in interdependence?
Well, I've been raised city, okay? So my connection to Mother Earth is that closer to the city than it is to being out in the land and stuff like that. But when I sing, I know the meaning of those words, and I know what the songs mean. And knowing the meaning of what you're singing and being able to feel it, that connects me. That's part of connecting to Mother Earth, because I know when I sing, I'm praying to Creator. I'm singing my prayers to Creator. And as long as I know where my source of belief is coming from, connecting is not going to be that hard. It's learning those teachings that are given to you, that you've learned along the way, kindness, generosity, humility, all of those teachings, and being able to walk that walk, which means being able to offer a smile, being able to offer an ear, and being able to offer a shoulder to cry on, are probably the most productive and effective things that you could possibly do.
We're at the Social Forum, and we're imagining a world that is more expansive in its vision of who we are, a world that has justice for all people and all sentient beings. And we're imagining that we can co-create this new world, you know, that it already exists in many ways. You know, we often walk in multiple worlds. What would be your sharing from your experience being here and meeting with all the different nations that have come together and share their experiences with you?
Listening to their stories. Every story has a teaching. My life would have a teaching for somebody else, my children, for example. But I know that I've listened to a lot of people, and I have heard their stories, and I feel for them. I empathize with them, and I know that's their story. So I don't tell their stories. They have to tell their own. I only tell my stories with my experiences. But just sit down and listen and hear what's being said. Don't close your mind and say that didn't happen, that's not true, or make it so, well, the comments you hear out there in the general public of people, like I was actually monitoring what was going on with the Social Forum, and the comments that were made underneath after a particular article, and one was upset because one person was upset because she had to go to work on time, and she was afraid that the march itself was going to make her late for work. And I was kind of getting a little upset because everybody's saying, oh, we're left wings, or we're right wings, or we're this, or we're that, and they're boxing people in. And I know people that get paid $2,000 that you have to sit there and listen to them because you happen to work for that organization, right? And that's not true learning. The learning that I'm getting from the social forum is that everybody is coming with their hearts, and everybody is coming with an understanding. Everybody is wanting to learn more and understand that learning just isn't confined to a classroom. It isn't confined to their small little world of what they're comfortable in. And that's another thing you've got to do, is you got to get out of your comfort zone. I've been out of my comfort zone so many times, and I thought, oh my God, I want to jump right back into my comfort zone. But I don't, because I know there's a reason why I'm there.
And it's in that, it's like the butterfly, right? You know, the caterpillar,
Yep.
you know, once it starts to liquefy in order to become a butterfly, often I imagine, you know, that process of being in that liquid mud or whatever you want to call it, slush, you know, it's uncomfortable, right? So you're vulnerable, and so it's scary. But imagining what has yet to be imagined, you know, and having ideas that haven't yet been thought of, takes sharing and being together and meeting people and saying, I know you, I see you. And so I thank you for your generosity and beautiful words. So Michelle, would you like to send a blessing to our, you know, friends, brothers, sisters, you know, all those hearts that came together to co-imagine a different way of walking together?
Miigwech Natawana Miigwech Natawana Miigwech Miigwech way ahead,